You rarely find a German car with a real rear engine, a great design, and high-speed performance. Army Strong decided to bring the R8 from an auction and repair it. The goal was to return the car to its original condition and, perhaps a little better, to be a gift for its owner, Liam. Let us repair the improved 2022 Audi R8. But before we start, do not forget to subscribe to the Porsche B2 channel. Let's start talking about the German car. A strong shock, or the entire collision, was from the back, and this made their concentration at the beginning on the back of the car. It is true that the view from afar does not seem simple, but most likely nothing reached the structure or the surrounding parts, and this gave them great hope that the reform will not take a long time or cost a lot. Here, there are no open airbags, so it will be able to move them normally, and this definitely provides the cost of changing the airbag. Also, the airbags reduce the replacement voltage, but the rear wheel was completely damaged, and this is the only thing that would prevent movement completely. But they managed to find a temporary solution to transport the car to the garage and start work. The accident here affected many parts of the body of the car and its body, and the entire suspension system was destroyed by the accident. You have connecting bars and rear control arm, which are essential parts of this. When affected, it makes the car unable to properly direct or move, and this clear damage requires the replacement of these parts completely. Initially, we know most of the damage that occurred in the R8D, but before we start the repair stages, let's take a look first on the Audi also, but this time the S3. This version is equipped with a 2000cc engine, produces about 380 horsepower with a torque of 420 newton meters. These numbers make them very strong compared to their size and weight. Also here it features a Quattro system, or the famous SUV from Audi. This system provides excellent stability and traction in all circumstances. This car was supposed to make a thick white smoke. This white smoke is usually an indication of problems with the burning of oil inside the engine. Initially suspect the turbo because if there is a problem in it, it is natural for the oil to leak into the combustion room. They removed the plastic cap from the engine interface. There are also other parts with a lot of oil. The presence of the oil or its candidacy on these parts confirmed the presence of a leak inside the combustion rooms. They decided to completely replace the turbo to ensure the problem is solved from its roots. Buy a new turbo kit. They started removing the air filter tube, lifting the car on a crane, then removing the two front wheels. Next, complete the air filter tube, but from a different place. The shock absorbers in this car were not the best. They removed the right cover and bought new shock absorbers, better than those installed in the car. Remove the battery completely, and this is an important step to ensure enough safety when working on the electricity of the car. He began removing the front shock absorbers, removing the lining of the shelf on the northern side, and they were trying to decipher the original control buttons on the steering wheel to replace them and install new control buttons. Armstrong wanted to lift the car a little from the ground because lifting it facilitated its movement over the bumps and reduces the possibility of friction. Of course, the spring is supposed to install this height on its base. The new spring is slightly higher than the old spring. This is a direct and simple solution to increase the height of the car without complicated adjustments, so it does not need to do anything else to increase the height. He installed the spring and a base over this upper base. This is fixed in shock absorbers in the Liam structure. Here, decipher the steering wheel buttons. He started installing the new buttons and closed the steering wheel again. Abu Arim Strong was setting up the new shock absorbers. He started draining the transmission oil and also bought a liquid to clean and polish the car. He bought a front wing in fenders, but its size and rules were not accurate, And this reflects the difficulty of installing non-original parts or that designed for a different model because the wing they bought was for the RS3 and not S3. But in the end, they knew how to install it normally, and it seemed good. After completing the work on the rear suspension, go to work on the front suspension. They also removed the front shock absorbers and grenades to install the new in their place. At that time, days have passed since the old turbocharged from its place. Let's quickly remember how this turbine works and what its idea is in the first place. Turbine contains a part called turbine, which looks like a fan. This turbine is responsible for converting exhaust gases into a rotational movement. The exhaust gases are supposed to collide with its fan and push it to rotate at a very high speed. These speeds can reach 100,000 revolutions per minute. This turbine connects to a column located in the middle of the turbine. This column is the link that transmits the movement from the turbine to the compressor. On the other end of the same column is the compressor. His function is to pull the fresh air from outside the car until it passes over the air filter and presses it strongly towards the engine. This compressed air after cooling is characterized by a high density, and at this moment there will be more oxygen that goes to the clouds or complex above the engine. Of course, when this air enters the combustion room in the car, it increases, which increases the power of the engine, increases the torque, and increases the strength of the clouds. This is the old clutch column. The clutch column is the main part of transmission from the transmission to the wheels, and it was clear from his condition that in a very bad condition, he bought a new clutch column and began to install it in its place. Of course, the internal coolant of this car is dirty with a large amount of oil, and to reach this coolant, located behind the air conditioner, it was forced to dismantle the entire front end. That is, he was forced to dismantle the lamps and the protection penis to reach the cooler. This step requires time and effort, of course, but it started doing it quickly. He removed the first front lamp, which needed some polishing. There was someone else with them with a turbo installation immediately. He installed it in place, but it was not fixed with the bolts and the savings yet. He bought a new black threshold and started installing it. Removed the ignition file to ensure that there is no oil on it, and began installing the files. The ignition file, or the ignition index, is responsible for generating the spark necessary to burn fuel in the combustion candles. He began to decode the entire protection rod. After that, he reached the intercooler and started withdrawing it. Of course, he wanted to clean it, and to clean this cooler specifically, you will likely need gasoline or anything that contains alcohol. Therefore, brought gasoline and started putting a little of it in the coolant opening. It started moving the cooler so that gasoline reaches all its internal parts. After that, take all the gasoline out of the coolant again. This simple cleaning process restores the cooler to its original state and ensures its maximum performance. He finished his speech, brought the coolant and knee again in the car. He installed the tubes and reached its hoses. Of course, the tubes should be installed tightly to prevent compressed air leakage from them. Install the protection rod and fix it well. He started to drain the entire engine oil and discovered a problem in the cams columns. Kamat column or VT system controls the opening and closing the valves to improve the engine performance. This is a common problem. Especially in TFSI engines, freewheels have faced a problem causing oil leakage. This leakage affects the oil level and harms the engine in the long run. So he started removing pieces of the old VT system and installing new pieces to solve this problem completely. The new spare parts or changes guarantee a correct time for valves, which is a perfect precaution. Remove the old oil filter and ride a new filter in its place. Bring a new engine oil and began to add exactly 5 liters. He finished filling it and started operating the car and worked normally the first time. The engine sound was smooth and free of problems. There was no smoke rising from the silencer, but suddenly an oil leakage appeared from the bottom of the car. This oil leakage was the source of the turbocharged return line. So he brought a new Brutal and started installing it in the line where the problem was. Confirm shocks and screws from the top. Pour the rims in place and bring the car to the ground. After that, he went out and tested the car and had no malfunction. No problems at all. We finished working on the first Audi, S3. We now start with the R8, which is our topic today. Bring a Lamborghini truck. He had a temporary solution to put the car inside the garage, but now he turned the car and worked normally. This is a good indication that the engine itself is sound, which saves us the cost of repair. Of course, he began to dismantle it and put it in the garage. Bring its owner. Liam wanted to surprise him by the car because, as we said, this car will be fixed and will remain a gift for its owner, Lion. In the end, this car cut 7,000 miles, but this is of course a very small number, and evidence that the car was in good condition before the accident. The blow here was in the left back flap, and the gin, of course, and the arm still needs to change. Try the car first. The sound of the cracking that appeared at the beginning had completely disappeared. This is evidence that the work is going well so far. He started to decipher the threshold from the bottom. After that, remove the plastic parts. Remove all parts of the back quarter to start replacing the damaged parts. Gold to get a new river. Remove the air filter containing the air filter. Note that the broken exhaust system installed has been broken. Remove the air filter from the other side. Next, it began to decipher all the screws that fix the back structure of the car and remove this part completely. Bring a hammer and began to adjust a portion of the back flap structure that below the front lamp. Using the hammer is a temporary solution at first and absolutely and at all accurate, but to avoid leaving voids between the front lamp and the flap, it hit it hard, so this part appeared too much. They had to completely remove the car flap to get this part quickly. He removed the flap, brought a flame of welding and began to heat it on the parts of the structure surrounding the front lamp. The heating, of course, makes the metal more flexible and allows it to be modified more precisely because the cold roads and roads are not a suitable solution to these parts. He began to heat and adjust it so that the front lamp was finally installed without any gaps. Pass the flap. Second, the front lamp bases began to fix them well in place to ensure that they do not move or fall from their place at all. Return to the door installation step. William was installing vehicle ventilation holes. These openings are important to cool certain parts or to improve air dynamics. First, bring glass and began to install it. After that, bring up the upholstery of the door and began to install it and fix it well in its place. Test the glass and found that it is crooked and fixed properly, unlike the second chapter. He did not face any problems. He removed the upholstery again to see the exact place of the problem, but it will leave it now and return it to it later. Bring part of the rear hood. Buy it from carbon fibers. It is not normal. He removed the old and rode the new place. He bought a new environmental box, much lighter than the old. The lower tube looks as it is. The lower tube here is the first part. From the new sports exhaust system, they started installing it in the car, and the exhaust tube, even if it is modified, is usually fixed with an oxygen sensor. The sensors installed in the exhaust tube must be connected tightly to give very accurate readings. The new exhaust system does not have an OPF filter, whose function is to reduce harmful emissions from the exhaust. Of course, as much as possible, it will make a much higher and stronger voice, but there is another problem, which is the difficulty of reading the oxygen sensor. It is the difficulty of reading the oxygen sensor present after the filter, because the computer expects the presence of an OPA filter in the original car, and its reading as well. Consequently, they may have to program special programming to avoid the appearance of the engine examination, because the programming abolishes the readings of these sensors, so the light of the holidays does not appear on the meter plate. They started installing the rest of the exhaust system, such as installing the middle pipes, as well as the final connections to completely close the exhaust system. These are the back tubes and the final sound, or the so-called silencer. The silencer box is responsible for reducing the exhaust noise, which is the last part of the entire system. Each part is installed in place with metal fillings on it to prevent any leakage of exhaust gas between exhaust tubes and chassis. There are inaugurated thermal insulation strips in places behind the exhaust. This thermal insulation is very important to protect the car parts from high exhaust heat. Next, the empty hose is installed by opening and closing the exhaust valves. These valves allow control of the sound level according to the driving mode. After that, the engine was operated to hear the exhaust sound. After the adjustments, Armstrong brought all the pieces damaged as a result of the accident, such as the rear publisher, the front joint, and the fine front wings known as con, which helps to direct the air and gives the car a sporty and strong look. He also requested the side sills. Of course, some of these pieces were bought naturally, while others were made of carbon fibers. All these pieces of Auto R bring the front separator and began to put an adhesive around the entire structure. Of course, he had to use a very powerful material to ensure it is well installed. After that, installed it in the car and fixed it with nails from the bottom to ensure that it does not fall later. It began to install the back wing installed on the front bumper from the side. He finished the work and started installing the last back piece, which carries the same idea of the sheets that are sold in the form of a rear wing. But it is specially designed for the installation in the case of the back collision. He went to install the back lamp after he finished the dialogue in which he was, and fixed it well with his nails and closed. It began to install the top of the bumper. After that, installed the new bumper with its new publisher, bring the Audi logo, and started installing it on the rear bumper. They also brought the new carbon fiber threshold and began to put the material on it. After that, they installed it in the car itself. Now we come to the part that gives the car a very sporty look, which is the rear wing. As usual, this is certainly not. He missed and he bought one of the carbon fibers and began installing it on its base as well. But the bases in the car on which the back wing was installed suspected that it was not controlled or in a straight line. However, they installed the back wing and there were no problems with the installation, and the differential gears were set on the right and left. Purify the part behind the hood well in place and close the hood completely. The last shot was the installation of the new Tiger tire of his car, and thus, it can be said that the front and rear parts of the car were completed, and after good work, the window did not show any lights. Test the car at first and no problems appeared at all. After that, they made a quick tour of his garage and then went to Walesna, the place specialized in Armstrong sports. They saw that this frame is very suitable for a German sports coupe, so they buy it quickly. And they let him again, and on the way to their return, they noticed a surprise, which is that the light of the holidays lit up, and that was due to the UV filter that we talked about. Solving this problem lies in programming only. Go to a place to adjust the air pressure and wheel corners. The technician who was there discovered that the rear axis, or the swing arm in one of them, discovered a slight invisible curvature which quickly erodes the tires and wrapped them over time. Program the car so that the holiday light disappears. After finishing, the holiday light disappeared immediately. Finally, Audi returned to the workshop and took it out on a balance to know its weight. They discovered that the weight of the car fell by about 100 kilograms from its original weight, thanks to the very large carbon fiber cut that installed, bringing the total weight or the weight of the gears to 40 kilograms. With this, we have completed a repair trip and amending the R8D. Thank you very much. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and write what you want to be the next style. That's it, with safety.